Good morning, gearheads. Welcome to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM. We could not be more excited after the week of Formula One news that we have had. It has been unbelievable. This is John Massengale. I'm sitting in the studio in Austin, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jonathan Green and Les Kaiser over Zoom. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you? Well, we hope to be joined by Dave O'Neill pretty soon, and former team manager for Haas F1. But we have a fantastic show for you today. We are now, about an hour and 5 minutes from the Sakhir Grand Prix at Bahrain in the new shortened circuit, the outside circuit, as they called it. And we have an exclusive interview with Gunther Steiner that we did Friday night. It was midnight in Bahrain when we got to catch up with Gunther, and we are really excited to share that with you too. We're going to play some of that here in the pre-show, and we're going to play some in the post-show, which of course means that you can stay here for the next 4 hours and listen to Formula One, because we've got an hour pre-show, we've got a 2-hour race, and that is provided by the BBC, the play-by-play. And then of course we'll have a, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I just want to say, if you're a real F1 fan, you're going to want to hear this interview with Gunther, because he goes right through his of what it felt to see his driver go up in flames. And he also talks quite candidly about next year and the drivers for next year, Schumacher and Mazepin, and also, the chances of Grosjean coming back. And we've now just confirmed and just heard that Grosjean won't be racing next weekend. So it's a very relevant and timely interview.
Yeah, exactly. Very relevant and lots of good stuff in there. We talked all about, like you say, Mazepin and the money issue with him. We've had some people tweeting at us asking about all of that. So we cover all the bases with Gunther, and we'll play that here in a little while. And we're also looking to hear from Jack Harvey, who's sponsored by SiriusXM and racing in IndyCar. He's just going to join us this morning. He was, like everybody else, sitting around the house getting bored of being quarantined. So Jack Harvey's going to join us.
What channel he listens to when he's racing?
What's that? Oh, yeah. What channel? I have no idea. My favorite channel of late has been the Yacht Rock Radio channel. I've been listening to that. It's great.
Say that again.
It's the Yacht Rock Radio. You know, the guy who does the. You gotta tune it in. It's an awesome channel. It's old 70s and 80s, just kind of theme of if you owned your own boat, like me. So
okay.
I've got a 5 horsepower. No, I'm not. I was going to say 5 horsepower.
Does it involve a big white beard and a pipe?
No. All right, boys, let's talk some Formula One.
Yes,
I think let's start with the news that overnight that Roman Grosjean is not doing as good as he'd hoped, because he'd hoped to race in Abu Dhabi next week. And he did not want to go out in his Formula One season and his Formula One career, with after that big crash. I mean, Jonathan, you got to feel for the guy. He wanted to go out in a race fashion, but it's got to be the right decision.
Yeah, there's a few things going on there. There is a sort of poetic thing, which is nobody wants to finish in a blaze of flames like that. And so he wanted, if this really truly is his last year in Formula One, which at 34 it could be, he wanted to go out at least, doing what he loved and getting that feeling again, not remembering the last 30 seconds, which is going through a barrier. So there's the one side. There's the second side, which is the doctors want him to do that because it's a way psychologically, and that's why he's been telling his story so candidly, is that the doctors encourage you to do that. It's a way of psychologically moving on from a very traumatic 53G accident, which will affect your life forever. But the more you can attack it and the more you can talk about it, the more you can work through it, so to speak. And then finally, he was worried about doing long-term damage to his left hand, which needed some skin grafts. And if they don't get repaired, or you damage the movement, you can damage them for life. And so, I think that was probably the biggest consideration. And also, once it's all calmed down, his wife's arrived and so on. He's got 2 kids. I think, the sensible thing is, all right, you've been through a hell of a lot. There's no need a week later to come back. That's my take.
Well,
Sure.
why don't we get
And then
his
you
take?
throw on,
Because we've
yeah,
got
and then you throw on the extra that he may not have the strength in those
Right.
hands in another 2 weeks to endure everything that he's got to go through. Go ahead,
That
John.
would be worse. Yeah.
well, we have Roman Grosjean's tweet that he tweeted out a little video this morning, so we'll play that right now and get his take on what's going on.
Time for the doctor to discuss, but for my health and my safety, it's better that I don't take the risk to race in Abu Dhabi. It's as I say, it's a very difficult decision, but it's the best one for my future. So hopefully I will know work on what's coming next. Where am I gonna go racing? Where I'm gonna go winning race? And yeah, I would like to thank everyone for the message, the support, the love. It's been incredible to see in those difficult times. I've left.
Well, I don't blame him for being a little somber in that because, you know, the end of his F1 career and going out like this. But I think it's the right decision. Man, I'm excited to see what's next for him because he's talked lots about IndyCar and other possibilities too.
Yeah, I mean, the world is his oyster in so many ways. I've got a feeling he could end up over here because he likes it over here. I don't know. You know, Magnussen's coming to the States. Yeah, Grosjean's an interesting cat. I think he's certainly not done racing. And like he hinted at there, he wants to put himself in a position. A lot of these drivers spend years in Formula One with no taste of glory. And it must be just mind-blowing when that's all you've done your whole, you know, life. And I don't, you know, not just adult life, like kids. So they're used to winning. That's what they do. And to never win and see Hamilton win everything, I'm sure all of them want to find something that gives them that glory.
Yeah. And did you guys see the tweet by Steve Matchett? I'm going to try to bring that up real quick and read that because I thought that was really interesting. And Jonathan, you'll relate to this, having done Formula One, you know, inside the paddock for a while with ESPN. And Steve Matchett, I mean, he was talking about Grosjean, but he says the cold, harsh reality of Formula One is simply that if you have no direct role to play, there is all but zero reason to be there. There is an instant sense of disconnect from it all. It's like, poof, you're out of Formula One.
Oh, dude, that I can completely and utterly relate to. I've been to Formula One races since I stopped being a pit reporter and you know, various different roles. I played pit reporter, but I also did reporting for other networks. And the minute you go to a race and you don't have a pass and you don't have a reason to be there, you just don't want to be there because it's so strict and it's so hard to get all the access and have a reason to be there and have a reason to get an interview, that if you don't have any of those reasons, it's a completely different thing. And it's very hard to suddenly just take yourself off and be a spectator again. So, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think he summed it up nicely. So, well, I tell you what, guys, let me give out the phone number in case anybody wants to call. 512-643-LIVE, 512-643-5483. And we do have a caller on the line. We got Larry on the line. He's from North Carolina. Larry, how's it going, buddy?
Well, it's going. I know I was.
Happy holidays, Larry.
And, oh yeah.
Where are you, Larry?
Beg pardon?
He said, Where are you?
I'm at the house, actually.
You're in North Carolina, right?
Yes, I'm at the house. I'm at my house.
You're not on the road. Well, are you excited for the race today?
Yeah, I really am. And I think there are opportunities available in the sport for Romain Grosjean, but not in the driver's seat. As head of the Drivers Association, there's opportunities there. And I think as an advocacy for the safety panel in F1, he could have a very prominent role in that location. I don't see him getting into IndyCar. IndyCar, you know, for all my love of IndyCar, it's a very dangerous sport. IndyCar's dangerous. Evidence Jimmy Johnson not wanting to drive any ovals. Ovals will kill you in an Indy car. And
That's
I
a good
think
point.
It's a great thing.
He was talking before the crash lots about IndyCar, but that's a good point that he may change his tune.
He's talked about that, hasn't he?
Well, it's just Indy cars are, for all their looks, it really is a very primitive automobile, really, and it's unbelievable high power. Indy car, those things are rocket ships, but they don't have the sophistication of an F1 car. They're really almost like bedrock cars in the terms of technology. They're trying to make them safer. I think the Dallara, the development of the Dallara tub, has made it a much safer automobile, and they've made great strides to not cripple drivers, not kill them, but cripple them. You look at the feet of some of those mid-level and 80s and early 90s drivers. Their feet are mangled from crashes where their feet actually protruded past the front axle area. And it was common to time the hitting of the wall to pull their feet back in the cockpit so that their feet would be crushed. I mean, it really is a very dangerous automobile relatively. All motorsports are dangerous. Whether you're in the pits, I've almost been killed in the pits at times, when I was working on stock cars. And at a very low level. I was working on stock cars at a very low level. It's a very dangerous environment, any involvement in motorsports. That's why I think Roman Grosjean, like Niki Lauda was, God rest Niki Lauda, but just such an advocate for safety. He really does, I think, have a future there. I really do. And I could see him in sports cars. Could you imagine a team with him and Alonso at Daytona? Come on.
Larry, I'm about 1 minute ahead of you. I just checked to see who Stuart Haas was running at Daytona 24-hour this year, and I don't find anything. But it looks like Clint Boyer's still in the mix of it. So hey, how about that, Clint? I like your idea, Alonso and Roman.
Well, how about Magnussen? Magnussen's bound to run Daytona next year.
Yeah. Plus, you have with him but he's with Chip Ganassi. And Alonso, it's a dream team, but Alonso, he's still in bed with Toyota, isn't he?
Yeah. But what we'll see now is John Renault. I don't know if that association continues.
Yeah.
Well, they aren't competitors in F1. I mean, so
That's
that
true.
would, Renault and Toyota are not F1 competitors, but Toyota seemingly, now maybe I'm reading into things, they're very protective of their drivers because their involvement is limited. Even though they're champions and all of that, their involvement really is very limited. They can only supply a certain number of engines every week, hence the small number of Toyota teams where Ford has a much larger capability, as does now with the merger of Earnhardt, Childress, and Hendricks engines to have a single Chevrolet supplier. With the work with they're definitely ready to take on Ford and Toyota both, but there are opportunities for Roman Grosjean in motorsports should he decide to whether stay behind the wheel or work on the other side of the pit wall. He could do very, very well and do a lot of very good work and really build a legacy for himself beyond what he already has built.
That's a good point.
Really
I like this. I like this idea. But hey, Larry, we got about a minute left, but I got to get your take before we go to break on George Russell. You excited to see him today?
I really am. I won't be able to watch it because when they piped in the sunlight to my place, there wasn't room for cable and internet. So I'm stuck with radio, which listening to you guys is perfectly fine for me.
Well,
but
good.
Come on, Larry.
I really want to see George Russell in quality equipment. I mean, if FP3 is any indication of what he's going to do behind the wheel, to see him in a top-flight automobile and a preview of a future and his future, I think it's all upside for him. Any result he gets towards the podium, let alone a podium, is an upside for him in the quality equipment he's in. And I think he has the talent, and he has just enough as a rookie not to know he's not supposed to do all that well. So he's going to do very well.
That's a good point. I like that.
Young and dumb.
Well, thank you, our roving truck driving F1 reporter, Larry from North Carolina. Larry, thanks. Hey, stay on the line. Stay on the show, Larry, because right after the break, we have an IndyCar driver. We can talk about what you just discussed. We have Jack Harvey coming on the show. You listen to Speed City, and we'll be back after a quick break.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're very excited. We're about 50 minutes from the Sakhir Grand Prix in Bahrain for Formula One. But we are also excited because we have just been joined by a badass race car driver in IndyCar currently, Jack Harvey. Jack, welcome back to Speed City.
Good morning, guys.
Morning. Hey, we got to clear something else up from, before we went to break there. We've related the issue that, George Russell has big feet. John Massengill has big feet. Jack, how big are your feet? Do you have feet?
US 10, so
That's
not on the same level.
But we're about the same size. Would that make me as fast as you?
Well, actually, I love this analogy that we were building on earlier. We're practically the same. We're both from the UK.
Yeah.
We live really close. We still support our hometown teams, which is I was trying to show you on my jacket.
See, yeah, Lincoln City. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're practically two peas in the same pod, mate.
So, do you think if I bumped into the Shanks, I could maybe get a drive at some point? Or
I think you should float the idea at him. Just be like, look, we're from the same place. We do the same things. It's pretty much just a given that you're going to be good in this car.
Yeah.
Same size feet. Yeah.
You're basically the same person.
Almost.
Yes.
Jack, what have you been up to? You've got some time off since the season. What have you been doing?
Honestly, right after St. Pete's, I think it was such a whirlwind year. I think everybody, not just me, but the team, I think everyone just took like a quick breather, 2-week breather. I traveled just, a really tiny bit, went to visit my girlfriend's brother in Florida. Came back, and then honestly, it's from when I got back just before Thanksgiving, it's just been a ramp of activity. I think that's when people are getting ready for that big run up to Christmas, so then you can enjoy Christmas. We actually tested Sebring in the early part of January, so then suddenly that breather that everyone had was great, but it's that re-energized state of mind to then suddenly go and get after it again, because the season actually starts kind of early next year, but it finished late this year. So the actual off season, in many ways, is a lot more condensed than normal, a lot busier than normal. Probably to the delight of my girlfriend, just so I'm not like around the house like poking around at stuff. So yeah, I think it's been a nice off season so far.
Well, Jack, I saw on your Twitter that you're baking a lot around the house, and you got TikTok going.
Yeah,
you're like the rest of the world. We're all stuck in our houses.
The pandemic pounds.
Yes, exactly. I'm actually trying to avoid the pounds. I've still been working out a ton, and it's funny because I had a few people like, "Oh, didn't realize we followed a baking account." And I was like, "Well, I mean, I don't know what you think I'm doing in a car, right now, because our season's finished. There's no testing." And actually, I don't know if people, maybe it's just because everyone is stuck at home, so a bit more on their phone. But I've probably been baking for the last like 2 years. It's just a bit of a hobby of mine. Just kind of away from the stress of racing, really.
What's your signature dish, Jack?
Signature dish. My carrot cake is good. I make these. They're just like a s'mores cookie, but I actually use proper Cadbury's in it instead of Hershey's. Yeah, that's good. My banana bread actually is okay. I get that asked a few times.
So I got it now. So Jack's banana bread with a little Harvey's Bristol cream.
Ooh. I need to get some of that out here.
Can you get that in Texas?
I got some for my mum the other day. You can find it here.
You might have to just send me that because I don't know where I'd find it.
Hey, listen, Jack, I'm sure you can relate. We want to talk to you about what's going on in Formula One, obviously, but I mean, we are half an hour away from a fellow Brit taking what is the biggest step for any young driver. You've had, a pretty meteoric rise yourself of late, but for George Russell, this is amplified, unbelievably. What's your thoughts on what's about to ensue?
Oh, honestly, I was just so happy for George because I think he has performed so strongly all year, and I hate to say outperformed the car, pretty regularly, I think. So when you see, Lewis getting COVID, and obviously just wish him a speedy recovery and is in the best health possible. To me, if it was my decision, I wouldn't have waited as long to even have announced George. It would have been a bit more of a no-brainer to me because he's got nothing to lose by going and taking this opportunity. I think we all can agree there's no pressure on him because if he wins, it'd just be like mind blowing. But to be so close to Valtteri in qualifying, if he gets on the podium, if he doesn't get on the podium, it's almost a great scenario to be in. Although it's difficult to learn on the fly with as little prep as he had, what comes with that is I think everyone's expectations also are not low. I mean, they're actually very high because of how talented he is. But really, everyone's excited just to see what he can do in a car that I think all think is probably a bit more competitive, a lot more competitive than what he's had. And probably for the talented driver that he is, deserves to be in, because even in go-karting, when we were all in the UK, I mean, George always had some flair about him, and he's just still doing what he's always done. And I thought his qualifying lap was mega, and I saw the interviews after that. Even in qualifying, he was still catching the wrong buttons and things like that. So to me, if you gave him that car in an off season to prepare with it, to get comfy with his feet as well, I think he would push to win a championship, and for sure would push to win races. There's no doubt about it. So I think
where did you race him?
I was always actually a few years ahead of George. So if I was in, junior class, he was in the cadet class. And as I moved into a senior, he moved into the category I was in. But actually, I was actually in between him and his older brother, Benji. So yeah, it was always it was like a sandwich of the Russells, actually. But I mean, he's so talented. I think even last year you saw him really perform, and he's performing so strongly now as well. So I think George is he's just a star, mate. There's no doubt about it.
Jack, you walked right up to the line. We're going to push you over this line with this question. There's a lot of discussion online, as the armchair quarterbacks will have. Seeing George perform this well, does this somehow dampen how great Lewis is as a driver?
No. my take on that, if I was Valtteri, I would be doing anything I could to make sure I beat George this weekend. I don't think it takes away anything from Lewis, because I mean, to be that consistently great is, it's not really an argument point. I mean, the argument point always is he's in the best car. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. And just to say he's got to beat his teammate, I mean, that to me is an incredible achievement, that he consistently beats all his teammates. He beat Fernando when he was in the McLaren at the same time with him, and every teammate he's had, he's pretty much beaten. I know that Nico Rosberg did, but in truth, I think Lewis that year had a lot of other things going on. I think that's a skill on its own. So as I look at the Mercedes team, the only person, if I was a driver there, if I was Lewis, I wouldn't be, concerned if it diminishes anything for him. But if I was Valtteri, I would definitely be making sure that at any cost I'd be beating him.
Yeah, I think that everybody loves to talk about that on Twitter and on all the social media, but there's no doubt. I mean, watching the consistency of Lewis Hamilton over the years, it's just astounding. I mean, just in the last few years, watching uber closely him in Formula One, he just never makes a mistake at the wrong time. If he makes a mistake, it's on Friday, and it's probably not even a mistake. It's him testing and pushing the car. But well, Jack, I want to ask you about your IndyCar career, because you guys at Shankmeyer Racing have just started to step it up every year, and now you guys are full bore in IndyCar. Talk about your career, especially the changes lately.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, everything at Shank Racing's been going really, really well. We started in our first Indy 500 together, in 2017. It was the only race we did, and that was kind of the catalyst to be able to, try and create a program. The first 2 seasons, we did 6 races. In 2018, 2019, we did 10. And you could see the progress and the momentum, that we were carrying. At the end of that year, we were very lucky with AutoNation and SiriusXM, that together they allowed our program to expand into being full-time. And something that came up a few times this year was people, would send me messages like, oh, so bummed that your first time full season, is now with, restricted schedule and COVID. And I was like, guys, it's still way more racing than I've ever done. So, cup half full always in that moment. So I think it was a nice way for all of us to look at the year. Maybe it wasn't full time, like we thought it was going to be, pre-COVID, but actually it was still more than we had done in any other season. And I think that positivity was what allowed us to, continue to grow, to work hard and fight for good results, and ultimately continue to progress throughout the season. I think it's fair to say we had some bad luck, and certainly from our side, perhaps a little bit more than, some of the other of our competition and our competitors. That being said, I think all year really, minus Texas, was just a, really difficult race, and truth, a difficult season opener, when you've never been there. I think we had pace everywhere, and I think if you ask me truthfully, where did I think our speed was this year? I think it was, somewhere between probably 4th and 8th, and, little step to try and find, I think, to compete with, Will Power, Joseph, Scott Dixon, of course. But we hope with just a bit more experience that we can do that. And certainly the belief is that we can do that. So, heading into 21, we just like to keep building on the good season that we had with some improvements, so that hopefully we can, push just a little bit harder in all areas.
Jack, but watching you this season, though, I mean, obviously the consistency, or at least the opportunities, it's a bit like Connor Daly. The minute you guys get more opportunities, you start to show more. But is it purely that, or do you also feel as a driver you've stepped up? Because I've watched you since you've arrived in the States, and there's no question I think you're driving at the top of your game right now. But is it because of that consistency, or is it you feel like you've stepped up as well?
I mean, probably both, mate. I mean, it'd be hard to just say it's one or the other, I think, and to suddenly just turn around and go, oh, it's just because I got more. I think it's really just a balance of both. I mean, the thing that I noticed looking back when we were doing the part-time, we'd miss, 2-3 races. And that took away a little bit of that flow, and the consistency of being in the car, and things just kind of being a habit. But more so than that, I think it where it stopped me doing that, it also gave other people the opportunity to do that. So then the gaps just increase. So I think what was nice this year was if we went to a track and we had something to work on at the next weekend, we just immediately jumped straight onto it. It was never a case of like, okay, well, let's get back up to speed. Let's just see how the first practice session goes and then evaluate from there. It was very just on it in that sense from the get-go. Texas for sure difficult because that was probably the first race where I felt like a total rookie again. No practice, no nothing. But really after that, I think the improvements the team were making, for sure the improvements I was making, but I think at the crux of all of it was a belief that the team, I think, believed that they could achieve what they're achieving now in IndyCar, and also me believing that given the opportunity, I also could achieve the results that we're getting. And I think the hope is that we just build and grow together, and hopefully at the end of halfway through the end of next year, we're signing an extension for a longer program together.
Hey Jack, have you got another couple of minutes? We got to get a break in. Can you stick with us for just a couple of minutes?
Sure.
Awesome. All right, well, we need to go to a break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Jack Harvey. Listen to Speed City live from Austin, Texas, back after these messages.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
Thank you, Max Verstappen, for bringing us back, man. I'm looking forward to that. George Harvey George Russell. Harvey? Where'd I get that? George Russell and Max Verstappen battling it out. But we do have Jack Harvey on the line with us. And
it's not Jack Russell then.
I know. I was waiting for that. And
right.
Couldn't resist it. Sorry.
That's low-hanging fruit, that is.
Well, Jack, I want to ask you about Grosjean. And I know I saw on your Twitter that you were watching Formula One when that happened. I've got to ask you what was going through your mind.
Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I've never seen. Yes, when you go back and look at old races and stuff, you see accidents like that, but it's not something you really associate with, the modern era. And, you're watching the start, and the first angle you get of it is suddenly just like a ball of fire down the back of the screen. And it's not until, they show a different angle. And I was just when I saw him get out of the car, I think I breathed, an incredible sigh of relief that he got out, he was walking, but then actually the ramifications, the implications, and what that crash really let you ponder after, was intense for sure. And I think the halo saved his life. The way that he went, the car front on went through the barrier, I think created that, separation. I think I know Alpine Star made the suit that he wears, but I think it was great that the safety standards on suit this year were improved. And I think in that particular moment, obviously, we're all grateful, for that, because I think they went from having, 10 seconds to 20 as, fire retardant. So I think that was great, but I think it caught everybody so off guard, because I was listening earlier, and I'm not sure if I would agree that IndyCar is exactly more dangerous than Formula One. And I think that, when you see those races, I think all motorsport, it is dangerous. I've seen some horrendous crashes in, sports car racing. I've seen them in IndyCar, and now I can say I've seen it in Formula One. So I don't know if I would say one is particularly worse than the others. I think ovals do add in an element of, high speed, high risk.
Anytime you strap yourself to a rocket, yeah.
But just seeing, the thing that really concerned me, and I guess I hadn't really seen that before, was the way the car, I mean, I know it was a higher speed crash, but seeing the way the car just split in two, you see that often. And I think people forget that these cars are actually designed to disperse in that way, to try and disperse the energy and the impact, on G-force and whatnot. But the angle the car went in got stuck in the barrier. I think, in my personal opinion, like Armco barriers need to be a thing of the past. Like that metal barrier like that, is the safer barrier. I think is a good step forward and whatnot. But I mean, it was pretty eye opening, to the fact that somehow I think we all got caught in this thing that Formula One is fast and it's the premier, but it's almost like dangerous, and it's just not. And like you say, you strap yourself into something that's essentially a rocket ship, and it happens. And I think hearing all the interviews that Romain has done after, are incredible. I saw that maybe he's cooling the idea on IndyCar, which totally respects his decision. Wait and see what happens there. But I think the number one thing we all felt was relief, but also then still recognizing, without taking away any purity of the sport, that safety could always be improved, and we will always welcome a safety gain.
Jack, I want to ask you your driver's opinion. You've seen probably Daniel Ricciardo coming out pretty strongly against all the coverage that was given, especially during the race, right after they figured out that Romain was going to be okay. Obviously, Formula One played those clips over and over, and Daniel Ricciardo said, we shouldn't be doing that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with him. I think, I know they said they only play it because they knew the driver was okay and going to be okay, but I also don't think that's really a good enough, not excuse, but good enough reason to show that, because, they are distressful scenes, and, people don't want to see it. I mean, I don't want to see it, frankly. I live in a world where, I see it often, and one of the drivers on the track, I listened to the radio, but the other drivers are like, we just saw a ball of flame, like, what's going on? Is it okay? And I think if people want to see a replay, they're normally pretty resourceful if you want to see it. The first thing that people do, they go straight to social media, they type it in, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. And in that moment, I'd have no problem with letting people find it, on their own. And, in that moment, he's got family all around the world, don't know what's going on. Yes, maybe know that he's okay, but they don't know if there's any other thing. I think adrenaline that moment kicks in, and he might have jumped straight out of the car and then had problems like after. So I think that relentless showing of it is highly insensitive to him, to his family, and to all the people in the world who, in that moment, are just wanting him to be safe. They don't need to see the relentless crash of a loved one who, for too long was fighting literally for his life.
Right.
Jack, I can't agree with you more. I've done motor racing TV for 25 years now, and I was not happy because of simple things like when you see a driver get out like that and you can see he had burns, but you don't know. I mean, there's so much adrenaline involved in that execution. He could have had a broken back for all we know, because you are superhuman in that moment because of your life being on the line. And when I heard that it was 53 Gs, you don't know internally what's going on. He might be physically able to jump over a barrier, but it could be weeks before the actual truth of his physicality is known. And so because of all those reasons, and that was what was going through my mind, which is great, he's out, but is he internally damaged in any way? I'm glad to say it looks as though no, but I felt at the time that it was too much because they didn't know. They just did not know what his situation was.
I totally agree. I think we all breathed relief when we saw him get out, because you realize that he wasn't sat in a ball of fire no longer. But then immediately it's like, okay, well, let's just get him to the hospital and get him checked out. And if 24 hours after it came out that he was okay, even silly things like no smoke in his lungs or anything like that, and then they were like, here's a replay of the crash. If you want to see it, no problem, go ahead. And I was watching it on TV, same as everybody else. So I was having people, my family members texting me about it, like, "Oh my God, we don't know what we'd do if it was you." And it's that relentless showing of it also allows everybody else to look at it and ponder, think about their loved ones. So we're throwing, all of our concern and support to remain, but then everyone else in the racing community is probably also getting messages, reminding the drivers, please be safe. I'm sure, all the F1 teams, the Lara, IndyCar, were looking at that saying, we probably need to find a way to keep innovating, safety in race cars. But I thought I personally I don't think there's a need to show that.
I totally get it. And I really love your take. That's fantastic. And, when Ricardo said it, I was thinking, okay, we want to see it, but what you're saying, the relentless over and over, if people want to see it, they can find it. That's absolutely right.
I mean, honestly, before they showed it again, I wanted to get a different take on what had happened. I put it into my Twitter search and it popped up, like the how instant these things can be. But then I saw it once and that was enough for me. I didn't need to see it again. And I think sometimes it's a tough one, because as a fan, I feel like we're all entitled to some information, but when it comes to someone's health, I feel like our sense of entitlement to what's gone on is secondary to that person's health. And I think that's where people then get it wrong, believe we should know more than what we do. Because to me, if we didn't hear anything, for 24 hours, you'd be terrified. But it's also that person's privilege and entitlement to know that they're safe first and foremost, and then it be known to everybody after. And I wish that was the take, because it's not like, clipped the barrier and carried on. I mean, that was as scary a crash with huge implications as I've seen in Formula One, probably 10 years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
And Jack, I've been at the 500, and this. There's a protocol there where we've seen some horrific accidents, and of course, as a reporter, you head back to the medical center where they go and check you out. It's par for the course, and then if everything's okay, you come out of the medical center and you talk to the media. Now, having worked for Sky Live on the 500, they're constantly, we're coming to you for an update, and it's like, no. You can't come to me for an update. I don't have one, and whatever I say will be speculation. And if it's a Brit, they're going to be watching at home, and I'm not willing to go and say what's happening or even speculate. So until I get you or whoever it might be that has gone off track, then I'm not speaking. And I think there's a responsibility of the broadcasters that needs to be, analyzed here, because you are looking at an investigation side at that point. Anything after that impact, you are then showing pictures of what is going to be investigated for weeks to come, and so then it becomes too much speculation, you know.
I think to me that the moment when I really realized they knew that they were playing it too often is when they had to make a comment that, well, we're only playing this because we know he's okay. And I'm like, look, if you've got to the point where you felt the need to then tell people that, you know you've gone too far.
Yeah.
You know? And I think I just wish that in that way, I think people always look to America as if, you know, Europe's so far ahead in so many ways. And on this particular thing, I think they're very far behind. You know, I think for the drivers, for the teams to have that moment to actually establish both things okay, because it might not be. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but I actually thought there were some legal things in America as well that you can't disclose medical information unless it's the person and or the doctor
giving
doing
yeah,
that.
no,
So
I think you're right.
I
think that's true to some degree.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's something more than just, you can't just tweet, you know, someone else's problems. And I think that should go to, you know, broadcasting them either until you actually know where he's at. And
I thought
I don't know,
NASCAR did
I
a
just
good
wish it
job
was
at the
better.
beginning of the season.
Yeah, so did I, actually. Yeah. But again, you know, it goes back to the fact that, you know, motorsport is dangerous, you know, and you hate to see it. You never want to see it. Everybody loves what they do, you know, but that is sadly the reality of what we all have to do. And again, as soon as we knew he was okay, it becomes a conversation, obviously. We talk about it, but the thing you talk about is, oh my God, thank God he's okay.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Jack Harvey, we thank you so much for coming on. You really
They haven't got his prediction yet.
Well, that's true. We want to get what do you think on the race today? How's George going to do? Bottas and the rest?
I think Bottas will win. I think on the clean side of the grid at the start, I think will make a difference. I think Verstappen's going to be feisty, bit tasty maybe. I think
if you're right, we won't show the AutoNation commercial.
Okay. So my podium prediction: I think Bottas to win, Verstappen second, George third.
Okay.
Like it.
Well, Jack, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
We wish you the best of luck, and
welcome.
Yeah, we'll get you back on the show soon.
Hey, let him plug. Where can we find you?
Yeah, what's your social and all that?
Where to look you up?
Oh, mate, you can find me on all social media, from TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. My hashtag's the same everywhere. My username is Jack_Harvey42.
Thanks,
Come
Jack.
and check out some baking with me.
Yeah, we'll come and bake with you. I'll bring the Harvey's Bristol cream.
Nice. Good. All right, guys, have a good one.
Thanks, Jack. We appreciate it.
See you, fellas.
All right, guys. We are going to go to break. We appreciate it, Jack. That was awesome.
Brilliant.
All right, thanks for calling in, Jack, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And we'll be back after a quick break.
I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
All right, welcome back to the show. We are about 20 minutes or so from the Sakhir Grand Prix in Bahrain for Formula One, and we are really over the top excited about this next interview because we got to sit down with Gunther Steiner, a Haas F1 team principal, on Friday. It was about midnight Bahrain time, and this was before we learned about Grosjean going to miss the race in Abu Dhabi, but we had lots of great discussion with Gunther, and I think we're going to go straight into that right now.
All right. Well, we are very happy and excited to have on the show back with us the principal for the Haas F1 team, Gunther Steiner. And Gunther, it's midnight in Bahrain. Have you just given up on sleep altogether?
Yeah, the sleep was actually not too bad. It's just it is long days, but it's just hard work, because we have done so much this week. Or some was intended to do and some was unintended, So the combination of the two ended up to be, just a lot of work. But I think we are at the end of it and we are getting out of the trouble. So it's in the end, it's all good,
Well, we got to start off asking about Romain Grosjean. I want to ask how he's doing and what's the latest on him right now.
He's doing pretty well, whatever the circumstances are. He came to the racetrack last night to thank the safety crew and the marshals for rescuing him. So he was good. And today I texted with him and he sent me a few pictures. He was in the gym. He's trying to get everything moving again for a possible comeback in Abu Dhabi. But we don't know. I think it's too early to say if he makes it or not. And for sure the doctor is involved in that one as well. But for whatever the circumstances are, he's doing pretty good. Mentally, he's very good. So I think he's in a good way to recovery.
Gunther, either way next weekend, it's going to be emotional for you personally, and you've always worn your heart on your sleeve. But, Roman was with you from the get-go, and what happened last week and his return, whether he races or not, it's going to be a tough end to the year for you and the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said to Roman. I would wish he can drive, but it's his decision. It's not my decision. If he feels like, and if he gets the medical sign off, we would like that he drives the car. But if he doesn't feel well, or if he isn't well, or if his body's not ready for it, he shouldn't be doing it. Because it would be nice to finish his stint with Haas F1, which was 5 years long, in a car. It would be great. But if it is not possible, it's not possible. But for sure, it will be an emotional moment for the whole team, not only for me, because some of the guys are here a long time, and one of the drivers is with us 4 years, and the other one 5 years. So it's a big goodbye.
Dave, I know you had a question for Gunther.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions actually. The first one, just to revisit, when you saw the the car after the crash, were you pleasantly surprised to see how well everything held up with the, obviously the impact and what went on? Just your view on that, really.
Yeah, no. If you see the car, I don't think you have ever seen a car like this, Dave, but you have seen quite a bit in racing. It is like the car held up very well, and the safety measures are very high. The rescue crew was there as well, very quick. Everything worked. Plus, but without luck, it would have been a lot worse. You cannot put it all down to, a lot is down to you prepare yourself. The FIA works a long time on making these cars safer and everything, but you need your little luck as well. And I think everything works together, and it ended up very good, But the car is, it's brutal how it looks like. The front of the car, the chassis, you wouldn't even recognize that it was at some stage a car, because there's nothing left.
Yeah.
Well, we saw the video where Grosjean was talking about the 28 seconds. That was the most incredible video I've ever seen, where he walked us through those 28 seconds. Can you walk us through what was going on in your mind and right before you knew what was happening? It had to be excruciating.
Yeah, it is like until we realize that, until you realize that it's actually one of your cars, it takes a few seconds because we are watching TV like you, but we've got the GPS data. And then it's like there is a big fireball. Which car is it? And then you look, it's Grosjean. And then you go through, and then we had one of the engineers calling out, he's out of the car, and I hadn't seen that because I think he was on one of the channels which was at the camera inside, looking inside from the front backwards, and he saw it. And I was like, guys, before we call that one out to Kevin, we need to be careful to make sure that it is, because I hadn't seen it, and you cannot overreact in these things. I stay pretty cool in the circumstances, and for me it was like, what is actually happening here? And then the time went, even if you think it goes slow, it went very fast, because all of a sudden I saw the same pictures as you guys saw, that he was jumping out of the car, from the fireball. So at that stage, I was just like, okay, we are good, because I could see him walking, whatever happens, for me, it was like if he's trapped in there or he's unconscious, I mean, there's little chances, it would have ended badly. So I think once you have got that one under control, we just try to deal with all the other things, because we had to go back racing with the other car. I mean, if you think it sounds brutal, but at that time we needed to keep the heads up of the team and saying everything is okay. He will be fine. At that time we didn't know, has he got a broken leg or something, but that under these circumstances would be a little damage, but he actually had even less. I mean, his one hand is quite burned, one finger, so I think it will take some time to heal that one, but the rest of the body, he got very lucky.
Gunther, yeah, I mean, we all were aghast when we saw that, and as things went on, obviously we had a big relief when we saw Romain jumping out. But I started in the days to follow, I started seeing pictures of the cars and the remnants of the car. Can you tell us about what's done with that? Is that now a study experiment on those remains to look at what worked and what didn't?
Yeah, the FIA came, because we are staying at the same place for the second race, so that was lucky as well. So we had the car in the garage. It was taken in pieces, and the FIA, they were here, I think, the whole day on Tuesday doing checking it out and taking the pictures and making all the reports for it. And what we now do with the car, we put it basically, I say, in a box and send it back to the UK, but it needs to be still at disposal for the FIA until there is nothing but happening. They just said, if you can leave it a little bit, that when we study these things, at least if we need to have a second look, we know where the car is and nothing is changed. So it's going back to the UK next week, and then we leave it there, I guess, a few months until the FIA tells us we can have it back. And then what we want to do, make a museum piece out of it and put it with all the other cars which Gene owns,
Yeah, guys, I love the fact that his take on all this. Just love having the instant access to him at Bahrain.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, and really candid. What I love about the Haas team, Roman and Gunther, is the honesty. There is no flim-flam there. It's just, what, tell us like it is. And I really appreciate that. That's refreshing in Formula One.
I was just going to use that exact phrase. You just don't get that in Formula One. And Gunther is the epitome of that. I mean, he will, and he will always tell us anything. We can ask him anything. And by the way, we do have the second half of that interview. We got about another 8 or 10 minutes or so that we're going to play in our post-race show. But boys, I want to talk the Sakhir Grand Prix right now, because we just have a few minutes. The race, we got about 10 more minutes in our coverage, and then the race right after that. And I want to talk qualifying, because it was the most anticipated qualifying in a long time. And George Russell was, 0.02 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas. Amazing.
Yeah, he actually went with Anthony Davidson through the lap, sort of frame by frame almost, earlier today on the Sky coverage, and he reckons he lost those 200ths, if that's all it was, at turn 1 and turn 2. He just got a bit of understeer going in and a bit of oversteer going out, and he said that's where I lost the time. So it's amazing how photographic the memories are, and how close they can hone it down to the point where they know exactly where they went wrong. But still, sterling effort. But the other one was Leclerc. What is he doing with that ragtag Ferrari that can't make Q3? And he just killed it.
I know that. I think everybody was totally stunned. And did you notice that when he got through with that lap, he came straight in and got out of the car, basically.
Yeah, that was it. I'm done.
Mic drop. I'm done. You know, there is no more in that car after that. That was amazing. What do you think about that, Les?
I thought it was excellent, but and actually my podium predictions matched Jack Harvey's as well. But I was saying also that we would see Checo right behind him, because I don't think Charles is going to match that qualifying performance in race conditions as needed. It's got to be sustainable, and I don't think he's got it, and that's why I think Sergio will step up one spot.
Huh. Okay, I won't argue with that. And just moving down the grid a little bit on qualifying, so Leclerc in 4th, and then Sergio in 5th, and Daniel Kvyat in 6th, ahead of the other Daniel, Daniel Ricciardo.
Nice surprise.
Both he and Gasly have actually had a really good season.
I know. The AlphaTauri team has got to be over the moon about those two drivers. I love the fact.
No pun intended.
Yeah, it's been mostly Gasly this year, so it's kind of nice to see Daniel Kvyat. I mean, 6th on the grid in the AlphaTauri. That's phenomenal. And so Daniel Ricciardo right after that. Carlos Sainz in 8th in the Renault. And then comes Gasly at 9th, and then Lance Stroll in 10th. And what do you think about that position for Stroll, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's not where he needs to be, and I think there's more to come. I think he messed up, and I think, like Perez, I think you'll see Stroll come through.
Okay, the next position on the grid is the exact same question, and I'm going to ask this of our prognosticator extraordinaire Les Kaiser about Alexander Albon, because you actually had Lance Stroll, then Ocon.
You're going to our South Texas sage, are you?
Exactly. So Albon qualifying 12th is this close to his end of his career with Red Bull?
You know, I think this is the one. I think he's the driver that wound up being very conservative on tires and running used tires longer, so that he's got more tires available for the race itself. And so it might not be what it appears in that he was performing bad. He's just using up what he had and saving the chewy soft tires for the race and his first rate tires. So I do expect Alexander to go up a couple of spots. I don't think he's going to get any further than about where Carlos is in 8th, but I would not expect him to go backwards short of going out of the race.
Yeah, and that's going to be crazy. Jonathan, you have a prediction?
Yes. Watch and listen to this comment. Yuki Tsunoda has just got enough super license points. He's the guy I spent a lot of the winter with down in New Zealand. He came 3rd today. He's got enough super license points now to get into F1. He is backed by both Honda, and he's a Red Bull Junior. Watch this space. Yuki Tsunoda in Formula One next year.
Okay.
That is a big statement.
So what do you
thank you, sir.
What do you think that this means for Honda and staying in F1? Is that what you're intimating with this?
Well, yeah, what I'm intimating is that Albon might have to move aside for plans by Honda if they, in other words, they want to do a deal with Honda. They want to keep the Honda engine. And so because Honda have pulled out, but the technology in the engine is still good. And I think the deal is if you put our boy there, then, you know, it's a bit like Schumacher with Haas, you know, if you develop our driver, we'll continue to develop your engine.
Very interesting. That will be a story to watch. All right, let's finish out the grid here. So after Albon, you've Sebastian Vettel in the same, apparently the same hardware, according to Ferrari, as Charles Leclerc, way down in 13th. Then Giovinazzi, Lando Norris, who will be starting at the back of the grid. He was 15th, but he'll start even further back because of a power unit turbo issue. And we're swapped there, though. Then Kevin Magnussen, Nicholas Latifi, Jack Aiken. We didn't get a chance to talk about him today. I think he did a fantastic job in filling in that seat for George Russell. And then Kimi Räikkönen. And then the other gentleman, Pietro Fittipaldi, who sacrificed a little bit to get Kevin Magnussen a little higher up. But Pietro had a great qualifying, great weekend, really. If you noticed, every session he got faster all the way through, got closer and closer to Kevin Magnussen. I saw an interview with Kevin Magnussen. He said that it doesn't feel the same this weekend. This was like Thursday. He said it doesn't feel the same without Roman here pushing me. Well, I think Pietro Fittipaldi surprised him a little bit because he got closer and closer to him.
Especially as he hasn't had a competitive ride for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in and out. If you remember, he broke his leg in WEC. And so he hasn't had he won the last time he won a championship, or last time he was really competitive, was 2017. So he's had a rocky road just to get there. So good on him.
All right, boys. Well, we got about 60 seconds left for our coverage before we go out to the race covered by the BBC. Les, I'm going to start with you. What's your prediction for the win, and any other fun predictions you want?
All right. I'm matching Jack Harvey's with Bottas, Verstappen, Russell, and I'm calling up Sergio right behind him.
Okay. Jonathan Green?
Okay, I said originally Verstappen, Russell, Bottas. I'm gonna budge Bottas and put Perez in there for third place.
Okay. I'm going to say Verstappen, George Russell, and then Valtteri Bottas. And that wraps up our coverage. Don't forget, we are going to be on the post-race show. We have an hour coverage right after the race. Same channel here, 211 on Sirius XM, and we hope you tune in. We'll talk to you after the race.